Hi, I'm Jonah Midgard, and I'll be reading my paper, Blues to Rock and Roll, A History. The history of blues dates back to the early 20th century and has a major influence on popular music, jazz, country, and rock and roll. Ragtime music was one of the first forerunners of blues music. The style of ragtime was solely focused on the piano and had an upbeat, syncopated rhythms. Scott Joplin is often considered the king of ragtime, and his bouncy works such as the Maple Leaf Rag and The Entertainer paved the way for future genres like blues and even jazz. African Americans were pioneers of the blues genre, being influenced by work songs during the American Civil War. Blues music was often written to express the feelings of the oppressed, which is why African Americans originally gravitated towards the genre. However, after the Great Migration, blues saw changes and an explosion in popularity. The Great Migration saw millions of African Americans move out of the South, bringing the music with them. In turn, blues music adapted to fit the more urbanized cities. The solo player was now accompanied by a pianist, or even a harmonica or an electric guitar. This new sound for the blues genre created a more complicated sound and emotional impact. Blues music became a perfect genre during the Great Depression, as the feelings of economic sorrow plagued the nation. Artists such as Muddy Waters took these lamenting feelings and illustrated them through blues music, capturing the hearts of many. Women also had an influence in early blues music, with Bessie Smith, Ma Rainey, and most notably Mamie Smith, having impacts on the vocal blues genre. The roots of jazz music began in New Orleans, taking the qualities of European classical music and brass bands and combining it into the earliest forms of jazz. The biggest genre, however, that shaped jazz was the blues. The blues gave jazz structure, with its deep emotional melodies and rich vocals. Additionally, the 12-bar blues paved the way for jazz improvisation, with the 12-bar structure consisting of 3 chords, usually the 1, 5, and 4, played across 12 measures. The blues genre also had its blue notes or bent notes. This is when a performer alters the pitch of a note by a microtone or a quarter tone to give it a more melancholy sound. This technique made its way into jazz music and added depth to their performances. Chords were also another influence that the blues had on jazz. Blues music relied heavily on unusual progressions and extended chords. The harmony behind jazz music uses a lot of these unorthodox progressions and chords to give it a more complex sound. The blues heavily influenced jazz with its rhythms, harmonies, and improvisations. The impact of blues can be heard with certain techniques such as the blues notes, and harmonization with complex chord progressions and using extended chords and the 12-bar blues. So jazz was not the only genre influenced by the blues. In fact, rock and roll was one of the biggest genres that took inspiration from the blues. In fact, with early pioneers such as Elvis Presley using the blues in his songs. Blues continued its impact in the 1960s with Eric Clapton, the Rolling Stones, and Mike Bloomfield all adapting the blues into their music. Even today, blues has a niche fit in music, with modern country artists using blues chords and techniques to further enhance their music.